Welcome to day 2 of our online learning. This is the lesson, will be chapter 2, lesson 2, energy storage molecules. Our unit question is dealing with the moon jellyfish population in the Arctic Sea. Now, we noticed that over a short period of time, the number of births of the moon jelly population increased. Our job that we've been tasked to solve is what might have caused it. We know that reproduction takes a lot of energy, so if the number of jellies births did increase, then the jellies had to get that energy from somewhere. In the last lesson, you read an article about reproduction and energy. In this lesson, you'll look back at that article to better understand where populations get their energy they need to reproduce, and you will also conduct an experiment with yeast, a living organism, to learn more about energy and reproduction. So, our overarching unit question has been, why do populations change in size in an ecosystem? And our chapter 2 focus question is, what could have caused the births to increase or the deaths to decrease in that moon jelly population? During today's lecture, you can follow along on our notes, which you're looking at here on my screen. I've also included a Google form for you to record your notes and answers for not just the lecture videos, but also your homework. So please make sure to check that out on Google Classroom and complete that before class tomorrow. Let's get started. So once again, I've said that we're going to get started on Chapter 2, Lesson 2, Energy Storage Molecules. Before we do, I'd like to get started on a review from the articles that we read yesterday. You were assigned to read about these 4 different groups of organism populations and find out where they get their energy storage molecules so that it can actually live and reproduce. The elephant seals, we discovered, attain their energy storage molecules by eating resource populations such as rays, small sharks, octopuses, and crabs. The sockeye salmon do the same by eating a resource population of shrimp, squid, eel, and other fish. The emperor penguins eat resource populations of squid, small fish, and krill. And finally, the firefly population eats larvae of snails. That's the babies of snails. Now, for today's warm-up, what do organisms need in order to reproduce? Again, this is a callback to yesterday's reading. I'll give you a few moments. You can pause this video and think of your answer. Well, we know that in order to reproduce, organisms need to eat. They need to eat because they need energy, and they get energy by eating food that contains storage energy molecules, which are molecules that can release energy in an organism's body. Organisms need to release energy from energy storage molecules in order to reproduce. So basically, you guys have probably learned about this in the past, but we're talking about what happens when food is processed by an organism. How does food, or what the animal or organism eats, how does it get processed to release energy for that organism to be able to do the things that it does, one of which is obviously reproduction. So our aim for today, investigate how populations get the energy they need to reproduce. I'll go back one slide. Just so you all have access to this, you can always pause the video and read it to yourself. I'm going to be moving along and letting you look at some slides as this is being read to you. So go ahead and make sure that you can do this. You can always go back, pause, and follow up for any details that you might have forgotten or missed by the end of the video. So, an energy storage molecule is any molecule that organisms can use to release energy. There are lots of types of different energy storage molecules. You might be familiar with glucose, which is a specific type of sugar. Glucose is used to release energy during cellular respiration. Energy stored in molecules also includes fats, and carbohydrates like sugars and starch. All of these different types of energy molecules are broken down by the body and used to release energy. Energy storage molecules, such as starches and fats, are too large to pass through cell walls. When the body needs these larger molecules, they're broken down first into glucose, which does pass through a cell wall. Once inside a cell, the energy storage molecule can be used along with oxygen by the cell to release energy. Energy from storage molecules is used for other purposes, not just to make reproduction possible. Even when an organism is completely still or asleep, it needs energy and releases it from energy storage molecules. This is because all movement and change requires energy. This includes processes that are happening all the time, like a heart beating or an organism's breathing. As you can see on this diagram, we have images of three different types of energy storage molecules. We have starches, which can be found in beans, breads, rice. We have glucose, which is found in fruits and vegetables. It's a sugar. And fats that are found here in these oils, butter, etc. So once again, yesterday we learned that our energy storage molecule is a molecule that organisms can use to release energy that they need to survive. Today, what you're going to be able to watch is an experiment using sugar, an energy storage molecule, to learn more about how energy storage molecules allow organisms to release energy in order to reproduce. We'll study the effect of sugar on yeast. We're going to use yeast because it's a living organism that reproduces quickly and is easily kept inside. The yeast we are using is the same yeast you can use to make bread. We will test the effect of giving the yeast a lot of sugar, a little sugar, and no sugar. Our goal is to find out if these differences in amounts of energy storage molecules provided have an effect on how much energy the yeast can release, which would affect how much the yeast can then reproduce. So the instructions for this experiment are as follows. I've actually conducted this experiment, and you'll be able to view the video on YouTube. But here is the outline of it. There will be 3 containers, A, B, and C, all equal size, shape, and makeup. In the first container, there will be no sugar, no glucose added. In cup B, there will be a pinch of sugar, which is basically the amount that you can squeeze between your thumb and your first finger. And in cup C, there will be a teaspoon of sugar. The second step will be to place a tablespoon of yeast into each cup. Then I will then add 40 milliliters of warm water to each cup, and then I will stir this combination I will stir to combine the mixture until it's completely evenly distributed, and then we'll set it aside to watch the results for later. I actually recorded them as I was stirring at a 5-minute interval and at a 10 to 15-minute interval. So you'll be able to see the difference in those results. Now, once again, we did say that yeast is a living thing. I know it comes in a dry form, but it is activated when it is mixed with warm water. And its number one food source is sugar. When yeast starts to feed on sugar, it actually releases 2 types of byproducts. You can actually tell when yeast is active. The 2 byproducts are carbon dioxide and alcohol. So the carbon dioxide, you all might kind of figured out, actually is what you see like in carbonated beverages, carbonated water, or soda pop. So you'll actually see carbonation bubbles rising to the surface, and you'll actually notice it. It's very visible. It's very observable with the naked eye. So, predictions. Take a pause here and think about what you would expect to see as far as the yeast's energy release and reproduction amongst these 3 cups. So, what kind of evidence would you expect to see of energy storage molecules being consumed? Um, and how fast and how much will the yeast reproduce in each cup in relation to the other cups? So, kind of self-evident speaks for itself here. So one key concept that we need to make sure you get down into your notes is that organisms in consumer populations get energy storage molecules from eating other organisms in resource populations. So that's one of the most important things that we're here. We read about this yesterday as far as the elephant seals, the emperor penguins, the sockeye salmon, and the fireflies. Each one of those four populations were consumer populations. They actually eat other things to attain their energy storage molecules. A resource population is the population that is eaten by another organism from a different population. And the consumer is the one that eats the other population. Here we have a nice representation of a microscopic level of what yeast is and what it looks like. So even though we cannot see yeast with our naked eye, we can tell on a microscopic level when the yeast are reproducing. When they reproduce, they actually form these buds, and you can actually see one highlighted there. When the yeast cell reproduces, it creates these buds, and these buds get bigger and bigger until they break away and become their own individual cell. Scientists have observed that when yeast get more energy storage molecules, they can make more buds, and that means they can reproduce more. Now, for your homework, you are going to watch the experiment that I've added up to YouTube and answer the following questions on your Google document. Oh, you is calling me right now. I'll have to answer that call in a second. But so answer these 4 questions on the Google form and let me know how you did, how you observed the experiment, and what did you conclude from it. Our takeaway key concept for today is that the more energy storage molecules are available to a population, the more organisms in that population can reproduce. So when a population has access to more energy, it's obvious that in turn, that population will be able to reproduce more. And today for your homework, I'd like you to go to the Google form and answer the questions that are on there. You'll need to watch the video of my yeast experiment and answer the questions. There is a homework section and a separate video about a cricket population. So watch the video and answer those questions that follow, and answer any of the other remaining questions that are on the Google form. If you have any questions for me, please reach out to me through Google Classroom, send me a message, shoot me an email, and we'll be in touch. I hope you all are doing well and look forward to tomorrow's class.